Now, if I'm not mistaken, in the last lecture that we had, I had been speaking about search engines and how they make an index, and then I was about to go on and talk about how you can search the index and the different kind of search options you can have when you are using a search engine like Google or Bing. However, I'm not going to do that now, so if you're interested in that, you can go and maybe find one of the ones I did with another class on the blog somewhere. The reason I don't want to do that is we've missed a few classes, and so I want to sort of skip ahead a bit. Also, it was kind of boring, so it's no great loss, I think. But those classes were, or that class was about how you can have advanced searches in the search engine. So you can say, I want, you know, this and this, or this and this and this, you know, but not this. You can have fairly complex searches and things. So it can help to know how to use those advanced search options if you are looking for something very specific. But like I said, it was at the dull end of the scale. Just to remind you that I have enabled anonymous comments on the blog. I'll do that for a few days or whatever. Just that if people want to provide some feedback, you can do that. I did that a few years back. It didn't end well at all, but we'll see how we go. So because we're about the halfway point, I'd be curious to know what you think. I feel like we're going very slowly, actually, but maybe you don't feel the same way. But like that, I do the same things a few times a week, so I always feel like I should be moving on to something new. But if you're only seeing it once a week, maybe you know the pace seems fine for you. So I'm interested in your feedback, just I guess for my own personal development, and I'm interested in it now actually, rather than later, because I have found that when people start, you know, if a certain proportion of the class are going to fail the module, you know, so like at week 10, you know, some people who haven't done anything all of a sudden might, you know, feel hard done by. So I'm less interested in people's opinions then, actually. I'm more interested in it now. And also, if we are going too slow, or if we are going too fast, or if this is really boring, you know, there's time to do something about it. So, obviously, at the end of the semester, I can have a look and see how things went and say to myself, okay, well, next time out, maybe I'll do something differently. Well, that's no good to you. Whereas, you know, if you have some useful feedback now, you know, that can alter the course of the module for you. Okay. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say before we started. There have been instances. Now, I don't know if it's in this class or others, because I just deal with the blogs as a block. There have been instances of people copying and pasting their blog entries from other people. You know, if you're in the habit of doing that, you should probably stop. If you don't want to stop, keep doing it, and we'll see how that works out for you. You know? So, I don't know if there's anyone in this room doing that. But certainly there are people doing it, you know, across the 3 or 4 or 5 classes I have. Okay? No. So what we're going to talk about today and the next few classes is search engine optimization. And search engine optimization there's no mystery to it. There's people who will love to sell you services and make it sound very complicated. But search engine optimization is about altering the content and sometimes the structure of your site to make it easier for search engines to figure out what your site is about. So if you think of a search engine as sort of a dating agency trying to match up your web pages with people who want them, well, it's important then for the matchmaker to know what kind of page you are. There is a practice known as black hat search engine optimization, which is where you try to trick the search engine into thinking your site is more attractive than in fact it is. And that's generally a bad idea. Apart from being slightly dishonest and unethical, there are people who will happily take your money to improve your ranking, improve the rankings of your search of your website in a search engine. And they may even be able to actually achieve that in the short term. You know? But the long term, you probably won't get real value, and you may be worse off. I mean, if Google thinks you're trying to trick it, if Google thinks you've been engaged in some sharp practices, well, you'll be way down the back of the queue. And that has happened to some companies who didn't follow the letter of Google's rules, and basically they were, you know, sent to oblivion for a while. So you don't want to cheat. And also, like, I mean, there's probably not a lot of profit in not giving people what they want. So, like, if you're selling bicycles, there's no point in making someone think your website has lots of free porn. Because if someone is looking for free porn, they're not going to all of a sudden go, well, actually, I was looking for free porn, but you know what? I think I could do with a bicycle. You know, I mean, you know, it's not going to happen. Like, so what's the point of having those people at your website? Okay, so, you know, you feel great. There's lots of people coming to your website. But I mean, if they're not looking to buy bicycles, what's the value in having them there? So there's no point in misrepresenting what your website is about just to get more traffic. You are interested in people who are interested in you. So it's a bit like trying to find, you know, a partner. There's no point in completely misrepresenting yourself, because, okay, you know, you might get a few good weeks, but you will eventually be, you know, found out. So you're not, in fact, a brain surgeon, you know. You will eventually be caught out. Also, I think it's kind of arrogant, or certainly takes a special kind of confidence, to think that you could outsmart Google and all of its resources. I mean, Google has some smart people working for it. It has quite a lot of money to pay those smart people. So to think that you could sort of game the system is perhaps, like I said, I wouldn't say it's foolish, but it does take a special kind of confidence, or a special kind of arrogance, perhaps. So when we're talking about search engine optimization, we're not talking about trying to trick Google. And there are some people out there who are very confident they can trick Google. And like I said, they may be able to do that in the short term. We're only interested in making it easier for Google to figure out what the website is about, so that someone who wants our website can find us. Okay? So there are a number of things you can do to make life easier for Google. Now, the actual algorithm that Google and other search engines use to rank sites is a secret. It's a secret for two reasons. One, it's, I guess, a trade secret. I mean, if you knew exactly, you know, I mean, Google's ranking algorithm is essentially its secret sauce. The fact that that works so well is what Google gives Google an edge over other companies. But also, if we knew exactly how it worked, well, then there would be a lot of temptation to try and game the system. You know, if we knew, for example, and I'm making up a stupid example, if we knew that putting your header tags in red instead of black would give you an edge, you know, tomorrow we'd all have red header tags, which would just be stupid. So, it's a secret. Also, the algorithms change a lot in response to sharp practice a lot of the time. So they're trying to get better all the time, but also if some sort of sharp practice develops, they will try and engineer a solution around that. So I guess maybe about a year ago, there were some very profitable businesses that would see what people are looking for on Google. So, so if all of a sudden there was lots of people looking to figure out how to change a bicycle tire in the dark, then these companies would pay people maybe $10 to write an article that would meet those criteria, so they would get traffic. And for the most part, the quality was quite poor. So it wasn't that people who were very interested in bicycles were writing articles that were good, and then traffic was coming. It was like, okay, let's see what people want, and then let's write some crap to, you know, to meet that demand.
Why does that just about that?
Do you think? Yeah. Yeah?
Anyway, people, Indian bloggers to write bad things about Google constantly. You see the same, it's word for word, same blog post across multiple.
Right.
It's all pro Microsoft. You see the comment. If you just research it and search voters, it's very, very, very obvious.
Right. That's something we might talk about actually in a second as well. So where was I? What was I saying? Remember?
People searching for change, how to change the tire, a lot of people.
Yeah, so these companies were generating content to meet the demand, and it wasn't that good. And Google re-engineered the algorithm so that this crappy content went like way down the list. No, so an important point, which is often overlooked, is that unlike, say, directories, which index or which list sites, search engines index pages, page by page by page. And each individual page is a separate optimization challenge. So it's tempting to think that, well, sure, I have the front door to my site, you know, dansbikes.ie. So people are going to come to dansbikes.ie, and then they're going to go from there to this page and to that page and to the page about tires and whatever. But that's not the way to think of it. You have to think of each individual page as something that the search engine is going to see on its own, in isolation from the rest of the site. So that context you might think the visitor has, and which they may have if they come through the front door, they're not going to get on an individual page-by-page basis. So Google isn't going to see that. So if there's something important that Google needs to know about a page, then it needs to be on that page. Okay? So your overall website can have an influence on the rank, but the page itself is what the search engine is looking at. So the more accurately the search engine can figure out what your page is about, the better. And that's the job, that's the task. That's what search engine optimization is about. So it's not trying to trick Google. Usually it doesn't work for very long. So there are two types of search engine optimization. There's local and external. Local search engine optimization is making changes to your website to increase its ranking. However, depending on a number of factors outside of your site, those factors may also have an impact on your ranking. In the very early days of Google, it was very, very important. It was one of the main metrics that Google used for the usefulness of a site was the number of people linking to it. So if you had Dan's bikes and Peter's bikes, and both sites were equally good, but there were like 5,000 links to Dan's bikes and 50 links to Peter's bikes, then Google would think Dan's bikes was better. And that was the main thing Google did in the early days, was it figured out if people are linking to something, then it must be of value. And so it counted how many people linked to something. That's not as important now as it once was. In the early days of the web, you know, people were making web pages and having links. Whereas nowadays, I mean, like my mother is never going to make a website and link it to something. Do you know what I mean? But Google may want her opinion to be factored in somehow. So the links aren't as important. So you can, you know, you can pay people to link to your site. It can be done. So you can, you know, you've got Dan's bikes. You can, you know, through some intermediary, pay to have thousands of links back to Dan's bikes, and that might help. You're claiming that Microsoft pays people to have opinions about Google.
You look at the schools campaign, it's negative campaigning.
Yeah.
It's just the way they're doing it. There's no way to compete. Even being there a few years ago was caught, last year, like stealing Google search results. They had to set a honeypot trap. They said like a one result was like random letters. Right. You take a certain website that would come up if you type in dollar random letters. They did it in Google, they did it in Bing, the exact same thing came on top.
Right, so Bing was using Google's results.
Yeah, they were stealing it off
them. So we're mostly going to look at local search engine optimization, okay? And to be honest, the external stuff would mostly fall into black hat anyway, you know, except maybe if you're trying to have a campaign in social media or something, you know. But like paying people to link to your site, that would be considered black hat, really. Okay. One way to figure out what things you should factor in is you could ask Google. So Google has produced this document about search engine optimization. So it tells you some things you can do. So it doesn't tell you exactly how they're weighted or how important they are. But I mean, if they're producing a document with 20 things in it, you know, it's easy to figure that they could be 20 important things. I have some crappy sites that I would love to have the time to see where they are in the rankings now, apply all of these techniques, and then to see does it bring things up much. But I probably won't have time to do that. So you can download this. I also have some copies there on paper, which I give out to some people later if they want them. But only take the paper one if you're going to read it on paper.
So the meta tag not working?
The meta tag doesn't really work anymore. Okay, the meta tag was originally designed to tell search engines what the thing was about, so to make it easier for the search engines to figure out what the page was about. But basically, it was all about Dan's bikes, you know, and the meta tag being free porn, free porn, free porn. So most search engines now just ignore the meta tag because it's been so abused. You should still use it on the off chance, but it's certainly reduced in importance. Now, Search engine optimization, we're talking about page by page, and it's all about the text. Right? Search engine, the robot, spider, is only going to see text. So you have to make sure that the text is visible as well. If you have small text, tiny text, or text that is too similar in color to the background of the page, you'd probably trigger a spam filter. So like one company, for example, a car company, had inside in a Flash movie, super cool website, doing lots of cool flashy things. But they realized, of course, that the search engines couldn't see inside in the Flash movie. So they put the relevant keywords on the page, but in white text on the white background. So a human couldn't see it, but the robots could. And Google had a tizzy fit and fecked them to the back of the queue, because that's cheating. It triggered the spam filter. And search engines only search the text on the page. So I have a very good example for you here now, which is one of the clients of one group for the GOMC. So this is a company in Ballincollig that does car valeting. They'll even come and pick up your car if you want. So if you want, you can phone them up. If you're at work, they'll come pick up the car, take it to Ballincollig, tart it up, and bring it back to you, and you can drive it off nice and clean. So, very handy. Okay? But let's look and see what Google sees when it goes to this website. So, start at the top. We have some JavaScript to do with rollovers and things and whatnot. This is mostly to do with having nice rollovers. Here we have some styling information, some CSS. I mean, the CSS could have been in a separate file. The JavaScript could have been in a separate file. They're all here in the HTML. It looks like it was Dreamweaver generated, yeah. So maybe a career in forensics for you. You can see, you can tell it's machine generated code because it's very verbose as well. More style information here. Okay. Okay. Some more style information. And okay, here we're getting to the body. So look, we do have something here about car wash. All right, there's an image called car wash over, and there's alloy wheels over.gif. So I guess there's some clue as to what's going on. And there's maybe an image of a Camaro, possibly, we're not sure. There's a car wash thing, another image called car wash. And then, oh look, there's some text. You can visit a blog, you can buy a gift voucher, or you can follow them on Facebook. And that's the end. So what's Google going to make of this? Well, fuck all, like. Do you know? What's this about? Haven't a notion. Oh, they have a phone number in Ballincollig as well, I think. You know. So it looks fantastic. I mean, it's a very nice website. It's very slick, but it's completely invisible to Google. So all of this professional valeting service to book, collection, call, whatever, but like, that's all inside an image tag. It's all inside an image. You know, even these really, really useful keywords here, quality valeting service, even that's in an image, so Google can't see it. So
this site would really be dependent on the meta type of it. This would be really dependent on the good meta types.
Well, I would say that Google would just ignore them. What do you mean? So this is a lovely website, very slick, very nice, does the job, but it's completely pointless from a search engine point of view. Now, in fairness, there is an About Us page. Sorry, I'm not connected to the web now. There is an About Us page that does have some actual text in it. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So it's important to include relevant text. It's all about the text. It can be, yeah, go on.
So basically, just knock out the ridiculous meta tags, and if you want to put some serious information about yourself, it has to go on your page.
Yeah.
It'll read your page only.
What?
So it's going to read your page because it's going to attach information.
Yeah, it's going to read the actual text on the page. I mean, it kind of sounds obvious, but clearly, looking at that example there, well, it's not that obvious, you know. But put the text on your page, you know, put your content on your page in text.
So if some sites have that robots.txt, stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that, can they still read it and not display it, or is it something reading as well?
Most websites abide by the direction of the robots, because basically, like we said with the directories, you know, if a human thinks a site is really worthwhile, then that's information that, you know, a search engine can use. If you're saying, if you have like 100 pages on your website and 10 of them are good and 90 of them aren't ready yet, you know, and if you're saying to the robots, don't go to these 90 pages, well, I mean, if you wrote it and you think it's crap, you know, well, that's certainly information that a search engine can use. So most of them would take the advice given to them by the author of the website and ignore the parts that are worth ignoring. But it's totally voluntary. So, I mean, I've no doubt, for example, that some, you know, Chinese government bot that's sniffing around for information is going to, you know, have a poke around and ignore the robots.txt. I mean, if you want something to be secret, you know, like, don't put it on the web. Duh. You know? I mean, there is the bigger question, you know, why do you have crap on the web anyway? Why are you telling the robots not to go here if it's pointless? Now, I could see how you might have an application running somewhere that needs, you know, raw data or something, and you're putting it on the web because it changes, but it's not really intelligible. It's only useful to that particular app or something, maybe. You know, so maybe reasons there.
I've seen some search results, even maybe the first page, you know, it can't be this, so the meta information shows under the result. So it can't be shown because of the site's robot.txt.
Yeah, yeah.
But it'll still come up in the results. You know.
Some may index it, some may not. You know, or they might index it, but flag it as crap, and only go for it if you know they need it. They may weight the fact that it was flagged as useless in the ranking algorithm. Do you mean?
And if you search for that thing like very specifically, then let's say
they might say, yeah. I mean, do you mean if you were looking for something and it was in a file that the robots.txt said ignore, and it's like, you know, the only show in town, then they might show it to you. You know, it's up to them anyway. You certainly it's a voluntary thing. It's not a hard and fast rule. So you want to include obvious search terms then on your page as well. So the kinds of things that people looking for your page would be Googling. And these are called your keywords. So when you're dealing with the Google Online Marketing Challenge, you're going to be talking about keywords a lot. So that guy in Ballincollig who cleans cars, I mean, obviously, if he's called Auto Spa and you Google Auto Spa, you'll find him. That's only if you know he's already there. If you're looking for somebody like him to, you know, tart up your car, well, what kind of search terms would you be looking for? So car valeting is an obvious one. Car wash, I think, is an obvious one. I mean, you might be looking for a car wash, and you want him to come up in those terms. So even though he's, you know, car valeting, like he's more upmarket than a car wash, you know, it might be worth his while using the word wash on his website so that people looking for car wash can find him.
So you might know what that means.
Hmm?
So you might know what that means.
Yeah, yeah. But also, no, in fairness, it may also be possible that the search engines would be clever enough to know that car wash and car valeting are in the same, you know, ballpark. Yes, sir.
You do something like, you can write text like on the white background with white text.
Yeah. No.
No.
No. So if he says, right, listen now, you know, we're not a car wash, we're car valeting. You know, we're not going to use the word wash here now, people. We're much more upmarket than that. You might get the same with like a limousine service, you know, not wanting to put the word hackney on the web page. So it's tempting to say, look, well, we put all our, like, you know, upmarket language here, and then down underneath all that, in white text on the white background, we'll put in car wash, you know, for the search engine. That's the kind of thing that will trigger this. That will trigger the spam filter, and you'll be fed to the back of the queue. You'd be worse off than if you'd said nothing. Yes, sir.
If you put tags on the website, is that okay for the search engine, or is it going to put them as well?
Tags.
Yeah, like tags, different words, like keywords.
Yes, but if you put them in, if you put the terms only in, say, the meta tag. So, like, if you put car wash in the meta tag, and you don't mention wash in the text that's human visible, it'll probably be ignored because people were taking the piss for too long with that. So, I mean, people were doing, like, free porn in the meta tag when the site was about, you know, selling surfer gear or something. And in the hope that they would get more traffic. And, you know, for a while they probably did get some traffic. But, I mean, was it useful? You know? So you might get people, too, who, if, say, the business operates in Cork or Dublin, that might be mentioned on the page. Or maybe they want, you know, more traffic. So they might... I've seen meta tags that list every county in Ireland, for example. The hope being, say, if you want a car wash in Kerry, and you Google car wash Kerry, you know, although Kerry wasn't mentioned on the page, by putting it in the meta tag, it would have come up in one of the results. But the algorithms have been adapted now to basically ignore the meta tag because people were taking the piss. So things change. It's a bit of an arms race. You know, chancers come up with new ways, and then the search engines, you know, adapt. But certainly, if you're not putting the keywords on the page where humans can read them, and the bots can read them, then they're not going to count. So humans can read the words that are inside in the images, but the bot can't. And if you have text that a bot can read, but like it's invisible to humans, well then obviously you're trying to pull a fast one. So it sounds, I mean, it does sound mind-numbingly obvious, really. You know, well, you know, put the text in your page, but you have to actually give it some thought as well. Yes, sir.
Could it be that Google is adapting, or may eventually adapt reading from images? Because there is this function.
Yes.
You can search images, like you can upload an image.
Yes.
And search Google for
it. The technology certainly exists to extract text from images. But if I was Google, I would probably say to people, you know, feck off and code your site properly if you want us to come and index it. Because computationally, the effort it takes to extract text from images it's computationally intensive. So, like, to be honest, if Google was to start doing that, I think it would make a significant contribution to global warming. And I'm not joking, like, I mean, you know, like the processing power needed to do that, you know, you're talking, you know, opening up another data center next to a coal mine somewhere, you know. So although the technology exists to do that, it probably wouldn't. It would be much more profitable, for example, to use processing resources to do face recognition. You know, so if you say, you know, find me a picture of, you know, Colin Manning, or find me a picture of this person. Here's a picture of a person, find me more of this person.
They do that.
Well, Facebook tagging does that, for example. You know, that would probably be more. There'd probably be more money in that. Do you know what I mean? Than compensating for people who can't make proper websites.
The US database of people's faces.
Well, I mean, you know, that's what Facebook's for. Yeah. I mean, some of these things are computationally intensive, and some of them would require human intervention. So, you know, when you do the leaving a comment on the blog, and there's the captcha, there's the distorted letters, but then there's also a picture of a number. Google's image, or Google's text recognition algorithm was having trouble with that number. So it knows it's a number, but it can't quite read it. So it's asking you to volunteer some of your very efficient image recognition capacities to do that for it. So some problems are hard for computers. Face recognition is hard for computers. If you wanted a global database of people's faces, you would need, you know, millions of volunteers manually tagging pictures of people in order to achieve that, which we have now. Millions of volunteers doing that.
The morning is just went to the database, everyone would throw a big fuss.
Yeah, yeah.
No, this is on Facebook, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
UK farmers, that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like going to America, you take your fingerprints and a picture of your face. And like, I'll just put that into the computer, and then obviously Facebook will give you all information.
Which is fine in one sense, but if you're Iranian now and you're entering Iran, they'll make you log into your Facebook account because they want, yeah. If you live outside Iran, they want to know what you're saying. You know.
It's called density influence.
Well, you might need to make up have some mug money, you know.
Density influence.
You know. Yeah. Yeah. So once you enter your keywords, then once you know what your keywords are, you need to use them then. Okay. So if you've decided, you know, your keywords are, bicycle, changing bicycle tires in the dark. If your web page is about, you know, that, and your 4 keywords of that, you want to actually use them. So you can have like in meta tags, in the title tags, in various places. Okay. The keywords should be relevant to your content, and they should feature strongly on your page. It's important as well to focus on a few keywords rather than throwing everything into your pages. Yes, sir.
You know, if, for example, the website is about sports,
yeah,
and you use the word sports,
yeah,
a couple of times,
yeah,
does it pop up higher than the Google search engine?
yes. So
if you would have like 2 words, maybe use the word sports 2 times in the
yes,
paragraph, and then you create also a tag saying sports. Is it count as 3 or 2?
that I couldn't tell you, but if the keyword appears more often in the page, if two sites are otherwise equal, or 2 pages are otherwise equal, and one page uses the keyword 5 times, and the other page only uses the keyword twice, then the page that uses that desired keyword 5 times will rank higher. However, if the keyword appears 55 times, Google might say, okay, this person's taking the piss. So you can tart up your content and make it more focused and make it more easy to identify what it's about But if you push things too far, then, you'll trigger a, Muppet alert. So the trick is to be clear and to be focused, but not tack the bottles, basically. So you should try and focus on a few strong keywords as well. Also, if your page has 5 keywords and a person is looking for those 5 keywords, then that will score quite well. If your page, though, has 25 keywords and a person is only looking for 5, then those other 20 are going to dilute the importance of those 5. So let's say, back to your sports example, you have a page, you have content about ice hockey, you have content about street hockey, you have content about field hockey, you have content about basketball, and you have content about soccer. If you put those 5 things on one page, then obviously that page will do quite well for people looking for those things. However, if those 5 portions of content were on 5 separate pages, the traffic to those, or rather the rankings for those 5 pages might be higher than the one that has more in it. You might think like the more in the page, the better. But if a person is looking for a subset of what's on that page, the rest of it might dilute it. So it might be important to think about the structure of your site as well. So like if a person is interested in soccer and basketball and ice hockey, then yip-de-doo, like, your page with all that stuff is probably going to do very well. But how common is that going to be? Let's say you're selling gear, you're selling uniforms, right? So you have ice hockey uniforms, field hockey uniforms, basketball uniforms, soccer uniforms. The chance of someone looking for uniforms and soccer and basketball is going to be slim enough, like, I would think. So you might be better off having the soccer uniforms on one page, the basketball uniforms on another page, the ice hockey uniforms on another page, for example. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So if you have too much on your page, you're going to dilute the good stuff, and that's going to affect your ranking as well. Because if your page has only 5 keywords identified by Google, and a person is looking for those 5 keywords, well then yip-de-doo. But if you've got 25, that's going to be down a notch or 2. So you have to think about the structure. Does that answer your question, or it just inspired me to talk about something else altogether? That can happen too. You may need to rein me in from time to time. So it's all about the keywords then, and you have to think about what words best describe your site, or best describe your page even, if you're doing it page by page. If someone was looking for that page, what might they type in? So if you are in the limousine business, maybe taxis and hackneys may have to feature on your page. Okay, if someone wants a limousine service, they'll find you, but maybe someone looking for a taxi might consider a limousine service. Maybe it's relevant. Similarly, car valeting may need to mention car wash. What terms do people use to get to your competitor's site? What are the popular keywords? And there's a whole, I'm tempted to say science, but there's a whole art of this. You'll see job ads now where people just do this all day and figure this stuff out. And there are tools that Google has and tools you can pay for as well to help you figure out this stuff. Okay. So this now is from the page, the document from Google saying what you should do. And the first thing they're saying is create unique, accurate page titles. Now I'm very lazy. For most of the sites I've ever done, I've used the same title for every page, just the name of the site. But that's a wasted opportunity. A title is short. There's only going to be a few words in it. And if someone went to the trouble of selecting those few words for the title of the page, then maybe they're some of the most relevant words in the whole document. So if ice hockey uniforms is in the title of the page, those are pretty much way important keywords for that page. So it's an awful waste to just have the title being, you know, uniforms or us. Very often as well, the title of the page is going to be displayed in the search results. So, as well as helping you get ranked higher, it may also help you get clicked on, because that may be the only thing about the page that the search engine shows. So they should accurately describe the page's content. They should be unique for each page, brief and descriptive. Now, again, there's no point in trying to quick trick Google and put into the title of your page, you know, 200 keywords. You just go, yeah, whatever. So the title is probably the first opportunity you have for flagging what the page is about.
Sorry,
yes, sir.
Use bookmarks as a reference check. Do you know, like a certain amount of people bookmark Amazon.co.uk? Does it use anything?
I don't think people's bookmarks are stored somewhere. It would be very, very handy for, you know, I mean, if Google knew, for example, well, I guess perhaps Google does know. So when you're using Chrome, if Google knows what you've bookmarked in Chrome, then websites that have been bookmarked by a lot of people may be high up in the rankings. Now that would be an external search engine optimization. If you knew, for example, that Google did that, and that it tracked what people bookmarked in Chrome, then you might detect Chrome browsers that come to your website and really encourage people to bookmark it. You know? And that might improve your rankings, and Google might decide that's a sharp practice and have a tizzy fit, or it might think, well, you know, well done to you. You know, we'll see. Yes, sir?
Do you know if, for example, your website is about cooking recipes?
Cooking what?
As in, recipe.
Cooking recipes, yeah.
And, for example, you have a recipe for spaghetti, but you only use that word once.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
all of them you're mentioning all different
Yeah.
types of food that go in. Can you make one word to be more higher importance than the other to the problem that checks it? Or does
Yes.
it understand?
Yes. So a word you put in the title, if you put spaghetti in the title and tagliatelle in, say, one of the H1s, right? Then that spaghetti is probably going to be worth more than the tagliatelle. Okay?
You don't use the word spaghetti a lot in the actual paragraph.
I'm saying if you only used it once, ever, in the document, putting in the title is probably worth more than putting it somewhere else. Putting it in a heading 1 is probably worth more than putting it in a heading 2. Putting it in a heading 2 is probably worth more than just mentioning it in the body of the text. Now, only Google knows the relative weightings of those, but that would seem to make sense to me. So this is what this point here is about. You might remember when you did SOF 6007, the lecture banging on about using H1 and H2, and that a H1 and a H2 have a semantic value over and above altering the appearance of the text on the page. So you could code 2 pages in HTML, and for the headings, you could just use a bold tag, and the bold tag might look just like, say, a H2. You could even perhaps use the font tag, although you'd be lined up and shot by the CSS police. And you could use the font tag to make the text big and bold and chunky in a different color. So to humans, the two pages might look identical. But to a machine looking at the page, there's meaning in those H1s and H2s. If you have a H1 tag, that's the most important heading on the page. If inside in that H1 there are H2s, well then those H2s are subsets of that H1. The topics in those H2s are sections of that H1. If there's H3s under those H2s, they're connected in a way. And so a machine could actually produce a tree structure for the document and could infer relationships between the content based on the structure of those H1s, H2s, and H3s. If you just concentrate on recreating the appearance of those, using, say, a font tag, you're going to lose all of that meaning. And the structure of a document and the H1s and the H2s and how those things relate together, that's very useful to a machine. So if, let's say, your H2 was uniforms, and under that you had H3s that said ice hockey, field hockey, soccer, and basketball. A machine looking at that may be able to conclude that that soccer section isn't about soccer on its own, it's about soccer uniforms, because it's a H3 soccer inside in a H2 uniforms. So all that stuff is really, really important. We think. We're not sure how much Google is counting on that. But certainly using header tags, keywords in header tags are going to be worth an awful lot more than just keywords in the document on its own. So we'll keep going with that stuff there now. Okay?